Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Ganganasadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Tam Namami.
Dear Seeker of Truth, welcome. This work that we are going to talk about is one of the most sacred dialogues because it happens between two enlightened beings. One is Ashtavakra, the other is King Janaka, which was Ashtavakara's disciple. So in it you will have a glimpse of the instruction of an enlightened being so that you can achieve liberation, and also the vision of how a liberated being stands, acts, what is his experience. So pay attention to these teachings, fill your heart with surrender, devotion, sacredness, because that is the way to enjoy it the most. May it blossom in your heart. May you also find liberation. Moving on, still in chapter 10, now we go to verse 5 of quietude, one of the central aspects of liberation, quietude. So verse 5, Ashtavakra continues, "You are one pure intelligence. The universe is non-intelligent and unreal. Ignorance also is no real identity. What can you yet desire to know?" So, you are one. There's no one beyond you. You are one without a second. And you are pure intelligence. So you are all-knowing. The universe is non-intelligent, has no intelligence whatsoever, and unreal. It has no actual existence. And ignorance is no real identity also. It doesn't exist. Like the universe, nothing exists. So what can you yet desire to know? Because what can be desired to know after knowing that which there might have something to be known about is not real? So if the world is not real, if the universe is not real, not even ignorance is real, so what is there to be known? There's nothing to be known. So it is not the answers that come to quench the questions. The questions disappeared by the correct vision, the correct knowledge. So you are the only one, the only thing. You are pure intelligence. All else is unreal. If it is unreal, what kind of questions can arise? And what kind of answers can come about that which doesn't exist? So it means that renunciation of the questions is common sense. And without questions, what is left is quietude. Quietude by the right perception of reality or of illusion. So everything comes back to silence, stillness, quietude. There is
Nothing to know. Oh, what is this? Nothing to know. Stillness. There is the renunciations of all questions altogether, because it's about something that doesn't exist. There is no real identity. Not even ignorance is a real identity. You are the only real identity, so remain in yourself. Kingdoms, sons, wives, bodies, and pleasures have been lost to you birth after birth, even though you were attached to them. So, this experience of duality, this individual goes through many births and rebirths, again and again, again and again. And in all of them, there are precious things, precious attachments. There are wives or husbands, there is wealth or misery, there is bodies, pleasures, and once there is the death of the body, all these are lost. Again and again, birth after birth, you dedicate yourself in securing those circumstances that you imagine bring you happiness or keep you safe from your fears. And you get attached to all these things and you lose them. And you start again, another birth, another struggle to conquer, preserve, expand, and you lose it again. Another birth. More sons, wives, wealth, this, that, an attachment to all of this, and you lose it again, and again, and again, and again. What is the purpose of that, apart from understanding its impermanent nature? What is the purpose of that? You're always gathering and losing, gathering and losing, gathering and losing. So what's the point in that? But no, but sons and wives, this is very special. And was it always the same wife? Was there always the same sons? And what happens next? No one knows. But it is always securing and losing, securing and losing. And there's an expiration date for the body. Doesn't matter if it appears to last long or short, but it will expire. So the purpose of life cannot be securing all those things. It doesn't make sense. So instead of wasting another life securing all these things again, that you will lose for sure, develop complete indifference to all of this and seek the self alone through quietude. And he continues, enough of prosperity, enough of desires and pious deeds. The mind did not find repose in these in the dreary forest of the world. So despite all these investments, there was no actual peace. And then there's the loss of it and turmoil. Then the anxiety to gather all these again. And then the turmoil of losing. So, endless births you have taken, endless times you have done all of this. So enough of prosperity, which is something that only takes time and attention and importance out of you, and dependency and fragility. Enough of desires which connect you to all of this and eventually brings you the frustration of loss. And enough of pious deeds, which brings then the fruits of it as prosperity and sensual enjoyments, and then more conditions for attachment, and then more conditions for suffering because of loss, because of the expiration date. Even if it is the circumstances that change, many times that's what happens. But if it doesn't, death changes everything. So eventually, you will lose it. So enough of all of this in the dreary forest of the world. So the mind find repose in the dreary forest of the world, because the world has nothing to give you. No importance whatsoever, apart from your enthusiasm. The enthusiasm that you put because you expect to gratify your desires. But apart from that, it has nothing to give you. Absolutely nothing to give you. And you have seen this birth after birth. So countless births you had, and still you're clinging after the same things that already was proven to you that don't have and that you will eventually lose. So if you have the same anxiety for happiness, and you have already done that countless of times, that is absolute proof that these things don't have the happiness that you're looking for. Only the self is what you're looking for. Only that is permanent. So if something doesn't work 100 times, will it work in a 101 time? For how many births have you not done hard and painful work with the body, with mind, and with speech? Therefore, cease at least today. Again, the same idea. You have done this again and again. Takes you nowhere. So why not trying something different? Cease all of that at least today. Through complete indifference to the world. Go back to quietude. That's what is closer to the nature of the self. So this is the understanding that your actual experience during one lifetime, through the changes that life undergoes, tells you that you have no control about anything, and your suffering is because of that idea of control, because of desires. And incarnation through incarnation, birth after birth, you get the same experience. You come with that anxiety with desires to satisfy those desires. You spend a lifetime building something, holding on to different things, and you lose them all. And you start again, and you do the same thing, and you lose it all. Everything is lost. So why do you keep coming? Why do you keep taking birth? Well, naive seekers say, oh, but if I'm the world, I'm here to enjoy. How many times? You can say that once, twice, but is it enjoyment? If it always ends in suffering and misery, what kind of enjoyment is that? So if you lose everything, if you come with nothing, and you lose everything, so that must not be the point of it. Because you're looking for something permanent, and that's not it. And this time, it will not be different. It will be the same. Now imagine, all things that are precious. Oh, but my wife is precious. Even that changes. You don't need to, in the old days, that would just with death do us part. But in these modern days, everything changes very fast. Wives, husbands. What about sons, daughters? How many have you had? How many will you still have? Is it yours really? Is it real? Is that really the purpose? How many properties? How many times did you gather properties, wealth? And you lost it again and again. And still, the same anxiety for happiness is there. Same anxiety that makes you do everything again and again and again. But understand, you're not looking for wives, properties, wealth, well-being. It's happiness that you imagine that come from these things that are not real. So they don't have that. So stop all of that. Become completely indifferent to the world. Reach that quietude and stay there for the rest to dissolve completely. There's nothing in this world, and you're looking for yourself, your real self, nothing else. So whatever ideas the mind is telling you that this brings happiness, that brings happiness, is just a distraction to keep you entertained, apart from the real game being played. Are you paying attention or are you distracted? So this was the chapter about quietude, that stillness, that unaffected stillness that comes from complete indifference to the world, either by knowing that it is not real and acting upon it that way, or by understanding it is transient, nothing there is permanent, and I'm just walking in circles, doing everything and repeating and repeating and repeating, getting nowhere. And always with the same thirst. So abide in that quietude. Let all else dissolve by your complete indifference to the world.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.